Welcome, everyone. We are so excited you're here. I know on a Thursday evening in the summer, it's always a guess of like, gosh, we hope people can join us. We hope it's a good time. But we're so thrilled you're here. And you see lots of purple tonight. Dr. Sweat, we did not make him put on a purple background just to conserve everyone's vision here. So welcome to our State of the Union. Just quick introductions. I'm Carrie Howell, the CEO for American Migraine Foundation. Joining me tonight is Dr. Christine Lay. She is our board chair. Um, I was going to say Dr. Nim Singh. I just went ahead and gave you you might as well. You have the title. Nim Singh, who has a new last name. Nim, are we using your
Oh,
new last
yeah, it's a Dua as of June 7th.
So we have to update that. Dr. Todd Sweat, he is the president of the board for American Headache Society. And Tia Williams is joining us tonight. We'll give a little more bio information on Tia, but she joins us as a board member, as someone that I think probably doesn't need a lot of introduction, but we'll give you some information about her as well tonight. So we are going to move pretty swiftly through an agenda to make sure that we cover everything. We're going to try to get through it right at an hour. I know that people are coming home from work and trying to rush through their day. So I'm going to start with just introducing and turning it over to Dr. Todd Sweat. He's going to give you some information about what's happening with the American Headache Society, the exciting things that are going on there. And we value your partnership so much. We're so grateful for you all. I told someone the other day, I think I would say you're like our brother family. I don't quite have the identifier out, but I'm like, we're family. So thank you. And we will turn it over to you for a minute to tell everyone the exciting things that are happening at AHS.
Well, thank you, Carrie. Yeah, thanks to you and thanks, Dr. Lay. So really appreciate the opportunity to take a few minutes here. And it's funny you called us family because I usually refer to the AMF as our sister organization. So that's awesome. And yeah, we too, the American Headache Society, so highly values the relationship with the AMF. And even beyond that, I mean, really for both of our organizations to achieve our missions, we really need each other. And we work together so closely to achieve those missions. So thank you. So for those of you on the call, I don't want to assume that, people are really all that aware of the American Headache Society. So I'm going to call it the AHS. The AHS is a professional organization. So our members tend to be clinicians, a lot of headache specialists, for example, as well as scientists and researchers that have a specific interest in headache. Our mission is to improve the lives of people impacted by migraine, other headaches, as well as facial pain. So we're an organization that's been around since the late 1950s, so have a very long history and really a successful history, specifically in education. So I really would say that we provide world-class education and have done so for a very long time. And so it's mostly education targeting clinicians and scientists. And so that includes our own members, but it also includes other healthcare providers that maybe aren't necessarily specialists, but of course are taking care of large numbers of people with migraine and other headaches. So we have educational opportunities for people during their training, like medical students, residents, fellows, as well as for specialists, right? We're all continuing to learn all the time. So we definitely target all of those groups. In addition to those opportunities, we have two main meetings each year. So one is our annual scientific meeting, and the other one's called the Scottsdale Headache Symposium. So the Scottsdale Headache Symposium is a bit more clinical. So really going over the latest and greatest as far as diagnosis and management of headache and facial pain. And then our annual scientific meeting is kind of like what it sounds. It's a little bit more scientific. And so it's a lot of presentations from researchers, as well as what we call plenary sessions, where we talk about different specific topics. So we just had our annual scientific meeting last week in Minneapolis. Super successful. About 1,000 people attended. And we had sessions on things like photosensitivity and migraine. So, the idea that people are with migraine tend to be very sensitive to just normal lighting as well as bright lighting. So talking about the science of that, ways to address that. We had sessions on the relationship between sleep and abnormal sleep and headache and pain, as well as trauma. So how exposure to trauma in someone's past or present, of course, can interact with symptoms and onset of disease. And then we ended the meeting with really a great session on what we call refractory migraine. So for people who have migraine disease that's not so responsive to some of the first or second line therapies, then where do you go from there, and what do we know about the science about that? So again, great meeting, a lot of new insights. We also were able to announce a new campaign that we're very excited about. And so this is a campaign that we're going to be running for the next several years to try to empower healthcare providers, clinicians to screen for, to diagnose, and to at least recommend initial treatments for people with migraine. So really what I'm referring to here is that a lot of providers are seeing a lot of patients who have migraine, but not everyone at this point is really trying to make that diagnosis or screen for it. And so we're really trying to reach those people and make them understand actually how rewarding it can be to make the diagnosis and to initiate treatment and just to make sure they have the tools to do so. Another thing that we're working on is so we maybe it's been about a year ago now, the HS published what we call a position statement. So this is a when there's a topic that we find highly important that we can all kind of get behind at the society, we can publish a paper that talks about that. And so there was this position statement about a year ago about rethinking what should be considered first line treatments for migraine prevention. So kind of bringing some of the newer treatments into the fold there. And that publication has had a lot of positive impact. And so this actually, we're told, it was directly impacted the way that payers have decided to cover medications. Not 100% of payers, but at least a good proportion of them had actually changed some of their coverage roles. And so very enthused by that we could have that impact. And so therefore we're kind of doubling down on these position statements. And so we have new ones that are well underway. So including topics like the use of telehealth and headache practices and the importance of screening for migraine as well. So I'll just end. I don't want to take too much time because we all really want to hear from Tia, and I know that. But anyway, I'll just end by saying that there is a huge amount of momentum in our field, in the field of headache. We're seeing that in the American Headache Society. We've had like a 75% growth in our membership numbers in the last 5 years. We're seeing that with the exponentially increasing number of fellowship programs. So this is advanced training programs for clinicians who want to specialize in headache. And we're seeing that in the number of people going into headache. So, now just through those fellowship programs, there's like 50 to 60 new physicians who are headache specialists that are going into practice every year. That's not yet enough, but still it's a huge increase and something really to be excited about. There still are new, we've seen new therapeutics over the last few years, but there still are new therapeutics that we expect to be available over the coming years. And so it's great that I could be part of this and partner with AMF and the AHS to keep this momentum going. It's awesome to see how many people are participating because I know all of you need to be part of keeping that momentum going as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sweat. I think one of the things that I really took away, and we've talked about it a little bit since we've been back and even on a live today, is really the excitement around physicians saying, okay is not okay. We want you to be a patient that it really strives for migraine freedom. And while we know that there's not a magic cure right now, I was just really excited and took away that like we want physicians to say, but what is okay for you? And making sure people really go to the next level. And there's so many great new medications out and different therapeutic opportunities. So thank you for what you all are doing because we're so glad to bring the patient voice and bring that to the table. And we're so grateful that you all bring the clinicians going back to say, okay, this is what we got to do better and different and how we can offer great care. So thank you for your partnership. And we'll let you hop off because I actually know with the time difference, you're still going to be working for a while.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thanks, Carrie.
Thank you. Thank you again for all that you all do for us too. So we appreciate you so much. Thanks, Dr. Sweat. So I won't spend a lot of time doing the introduction, but we're going to jump right into why many of you came tonight. Dr. Lay and Nim, I'm sorry, I don't think it has much to do with us, but but that's fine. That's fine. If you're new to American Migraine Foundation or new to the migraine space, you may not know her name just yet. But I'm so thrilled to introduce Tia Williams to you. Tia's list of books got longer and longer. The more I read it, I was like, she's done so much to be only, what, 25, right, Tia? Exactly. So just a few of the highlighted books that she has read is The Accidental Diva, The It Chicks, The Perfect Fine, which is now a Netflix series starring Gabriella Union. She also, the one that we really got connected with her on was 7 Days in June. And that one was picked up by maybe a little well-known Reese Witherspoon, who fell in love with it. And then she also just came off a book tour and was on Good Morning America just a few weeks ago, which you didn't even tell us, T. I was looking at and I was like, she was just on Good Morning America. So we are so grateful for you. Tell people a little bit about your journey and just tell them too, like you joined the American Migraine Foundation board because you were like, this is meaningful to you. So I'm going to turn it over just for you to share a little bit of your story and why you're involved with American Migraine Foundation and talk a little bit about what led you to write some of the books you did.
Oh, well, thank you so much for that fabulous introduction. I never thought that I would see myself on a medical or science sort of board. I don't do math. I'm not a math science, brain kind of a gal. I look at what you all do with such reverence and awe. I have been a patient since I was 9 years old. I'm going to back up. So you guys found me because I wrote a novel in 2021 called 7 Days in June. And I'm a romance author. And the protagonist of the novel has migraine. And it's very clear on the page that the person who wrote this also has migraine. It's kind of like um, it's interesting the feedback I get from people who don't have migraine or a chronic pain, and they're like, wow, you must have really had to do a lot of research. But the
Mm,
people who have it are like, wow, okay, you nailed it. Because that's exactly what it feels like. That's exactly what, the pain is like, the stress with family and friends and work, and just trying to feel like an actual human being and not, there's a line in the book where I say that Eva, the protagonist, feels like human shaped pain. Like she's more of just like symbolic of pain than she is of humanity. And that's,
mm,
how it feels. So anyway, I am a romance writer and I've never seen someone with migraine like star in a love story and get all the great things that, other protagonists in rom-coms get. Um, but, that was my fourth, not fifth novel, and it took me five novels to get around to talking about this because it has been so painful and, you know, literally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, astrologically. It's been painful in every way you can think of.
yeah.
And so I kind of run from it in my work. Like I don't want to write about it because it's triggering and I have a lot of trauma around it. So I actually was like, okay, I'm gonna have my main character have migraine, but like we don't really have to talk about it. Like we'll just see her, taking a pill or, laying down with an ice pack. And my editor was like, love it. No, 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 no. You have to go there. You have to go there. You have to like peel back those layers and really give it to us, or else people are going to be like, she has a headache. Like, take a Tylenol and keep on moving. Like, because everybody
Yeah.
gets a headache sometimes. You need some coffee, or, you had a late night, out on the town. You haven't had, so people needed to understand that it was so much more than that, that it was a full body experience. Um, so I went there and I actually have not read the book since I published it because I will burst into tears. So a little bit about, I make it sound so grim. It's actually like this fizzy, fun, extremely sexy like love story. It's just that, the main character, has some pain struggles. Um, anyway, so I was diagnosed at 9. No, I was not diagnosed because what I was really diagnosed with was maybe your backpack is on too tight, or she gets straight A's. Maybe she's just stressed out and needs to chill. Um, or you guys just moved. My father was in the military, so that was the year that we moved from DC to Germany. So a lot of it was, oh, she must be having a hard time, adjusting. So it took a long time to get a migraine diagnosis. It was that, and then it was sinus headaches, and then it was like cluster, and then it was hormonal, and then um, when I became a teenager, I was very depressed,
Mm.
and because of, depression runs in my family, but like also anyone with chronic pain knows, depression and pain go hand in hand because you feel so isolated. You feel like you're pretending all the time. You're not really a part of the world, especially with an invisible disease, because you look normal, whatever normal is supposed to look like. You're not in a wheelchair, you don't have crutches, you're not bleeding. What's wrong with you? Pull it together. Um, so it was very depressing, and I couldn't do things that people my age could do. Um, and so I had my doctor say, well, actually, these are probably just depression headaches. So I was never really diagnosed until my early 20s. And so I was never really getting the right treatment. Um, and yet she persisted. Um, I refused to I always had this feeling like I am a writer. And so I think sort of visually, and like I would picture the migraine as like this gargoyle sitting on my shoulders or like on top of my head, just like sitting there waiting, to just, and so I was always kind of like flinching, get like a dog that's like being abused and like they flinch at every turn. And I always got the feeling if I really gave into it, I would just look oblivion in the face and never get up and do anything. So I became an overachiever. In high school, I was a cheerleader. I was student government, National Honor Society, newspaper, all this stuff. And I would go home and die every day. And I did all of these things, popping pills. It just becomes your normal. Like I look at my journals from growing up and I'm just like, how did I take this on? And again, like I had friends, but I never felt really close to anyone because who would understand this?
Mm.
Who could possibly understand this? Um, Luckily, my mother has migraine and her dad had migraine. And just a quick sidebar, my pop was born on Cane River, Louisiana, one of 14 brothers and sisters on a farm, okay? Like your job was farm.
Wow.
Your job was farm, and it's Louisiana. It is 300 degrees in February. And the humidity, I cannot fathom. And so the family lore was always that my great grandmother would let him lay in the house, like under an open window in the dark, and he got to sort of, and the brothers and sisters were always like, "What's wrong with him?" But he just couldn't do it. Um, anyway, so yeah, I grew up just feeling sort of like an alien. It got really intense in college. Um, it got to a point where my friends knew what to do, like when it got really bad, and they would take me to the ER at the University of Virginia hospital, and I had like a cocktail. They would give me compazine um, and it was always like a 3-day affair because there's like these side effects that you can, I mean, I think back then they were giving like these massive doses and it makes you kind of have like panic attacks and these out of body experiences. And I would go back to my dorm room and just be like, for days, I'm just like, this is not life. When am I going to get a boyfriend? Like I want to go to a party. It was,
Mm.
it was really, really hard. And I was diagnosed right after college, and um, ever since then, I've been on anything you can imagine, experimental. Um, I had a neurotransmitter implanted into, I don't even know how to explain this. Dr. Lay.
Yes, we know what you mean. Some patients have had an actual device implanted, like an occipital device trying to control the pain. Yeah.
Try to control the play. It even had a remote. I was the literal bionic woman. Like you would, if I could feel it coming, like I would turn on the thing. And it was this invasive operation I won't even go into it because, it's almost dinner time. I don't want to freak anyone out. And they had to shave off one side of my hair. And, it was a really tough time. Like I had wires going down my body into this like battery pack that I would like. It was hard. I also had a doctor that put me on methadone for 10 years as a prophylactic, and I would fall asleep in people's faces. I fell asleep on the altar at my wedding. I was just nodding off everywhere, and it just became like, I'm just that family member. Oh, that's Tia. She's a good person, but she might fall asleep on you, horrible. So I've been through it all. And it isn't until honestly the past 10 years that I've gotten some semblance of control over the pain. I've also heard my whole life that, inching towards your 50s and menopause really helps. I've always heard that. And my mom experienced that in her, in her life too. So that may be a part of it. But over the years, we've realized that my situation is very barometric pressure sort of related. Like if the weather varies really quickly, gets really hot or really cold too fast, or thunderstorms or snowstorms, or this heat wave that we've been having, like I'm down for the count. But anyway, yes, after so many years of feeling just like an alien on Earth, and perhaps someone who doesn't really deserve good friends or love, because I can't be trusted to always be dependable. I make plans with you, but I might have to cancel. I'm always the first one to leave the party. I never go to a second location. Like if it's an event and then drinks or dinner and then something, I have to pick one, And I would go on dates and disappear in the middle of a date and shoot up my arm with the sumatriptan thingy. I'm not a doctor.
The injectable. Yeah, we know what you mean. The injectable. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not sexy. That doesn't feel good, And so honestly, when I wrote 7 Days in June, I just had it. I wanted to invent a character who had my challenges, we'll say, and found love and found a happy ending and got all of those things that I was hoping for. And I wrote her to inspire me to try to live more fully and see myself as a person with pain, not a pain with a person attached, and to stop feeling like such a burden on everyone around me, and which I still feel like I'm even kind of uncomfortable even like going into all of this in front of you guys, because you're conditioned to feel like you sound like you're complaining. But it is what it is. So yeah, that's why I invented Eva Mercy, and she's really resonated with so many readers. I go to signings and on book tours, and people come up to me in tears. People that don't, maybe don't have migraine, but they have fibromyalgia or arthritis or some sort of chronic pain condition that people can't really see, but colors every move they make, every breath they take. And for them, it's a matter of being seen, recognized, and that is so cathartic and therapeutic. And to know that the person that wrote this character feels those things.
Yeah.
And was even able to write a book is very inspirational for people. So, and it's so humbling to think that that my book has touched them, because this was the kind of book I wanted so badly when I was growing up.
Wow.
And I don't remember if it was Maya Angelou, Toni Morrison said, if you don't see the book you want to read, you have to write it. And so, yeah,
Wow.
that's what I did there.
Yeah, that's so powerful. I know when I first met you and we were talking and you shared your journey, and I know there's people watching right now who may for the first time hear someone else that goes, that's my story. That's my journey. And my partner, my spouse, my best friend may know a little bit, but that's the day-to-day struggle. I think it's so brave. I think it's so raw and honest. And I know I've talked to several people and that, hey, she's on our board, and they're like, that was my life. Like, I had no idea someone could relate. And I love that the hopefulness you bring to someone who's going, gosh, someone for the first time gets what I'm going through. Dr. Lay and Nim, any comments from you both on what we've talked about so far and what through her journey?
Yeah, I think it's such a powerful story. It speaks to so many points and so many things that AMF works on. So, feeling invisible. So this year, our theme is I'm visible. And this concept of, oh, it's just a headache, go take some pain medicine. Well, we all now know that migraine is a brain disease. And one component of that brain disease is the headache. But there's this light, sound, smell sensitivity, as you wrote in your book. I was struck one time where Eva was in a really critical business meeting and then found a way to sneak to the bathroom because she knew she was going to be sick.
Mm-hmm.
And then you come back to the meeting, everything's fine. And so for a lot of people with migraine, they've spent decades living in silence, wondering what's wrong with them, trying to understand what's going on, trying to explain to people, but at the same time thinking, I can't speak up about this because I will be stigmatized. And unfortunately, there's a tremendous amount of stigma that still exists today, but we're working very much on that to change. When you look at the medical community, there's beginning to see an emerging change that, oh, wait, it's not a headache, it's a brain disease. And this person has missed work really because they are disabled. And even though they look fine, they might not be feeling well. Mm-hmm. But there's still all of this stigma if you get beyond sort of that headache specialist and medical level. But yeah, I think there's so many things about feeling like you don't deserve this, or you're not reliable, family can't count on you. It's sort of the story that many of our listeners probably have experienced. And Nim, I know I've talked before, you and I both have migraines, so we can.
Yeah, it's so funny because I'm just thinking about how we really talk about how migraine is a heterogeneous experience, right? Even from one attack to another, it could be any combination of symptoms and anything that you're feeling, much less from person to person. But one thing that I feel like isn't heterogeneous is this feeling of being a burden, feeling invisible, carrying that gremlin on your shoulder, peeping over your shoulder to make sure, like, what's going to happen next. And what really resonated with me, Tia, that you talked about was the overachiever in you, because I feel like that overcompensation that happens in many of us, especially when we're trying to make up for our social life, our family life, our love life, we direct that to school, work, or something else, like a hobby, just to sort of feel like there's normalcy. And I think so many people in our community excel at work, excel at something like a hobby, writing, whatever it may be, because they are feeling like they're lacking, and we don't talk about that enough. And we kind of joke in our community, like, if you want to get something done, give it to someone with migraine, because we're the folks that will zone in, get it done, because we also know we have such a limited window to operate within. And we try to make sure we're maximizing that time. So that really struck a chord with me. And I kind of need to unpack those feelings after this webinar.
Because you feel like you have to prove yourself because people think you're weak. People think you're copping out. People think you're making an excuse. So when you do feel well, you do everything possible to see that. And I think, people sort of say, well, why do I have migraine? Why does weather give me a migraine? And I've always talked to my patients about the fact that we think there is likely a survival advantage to having migraine because it has existed since 3000 before Common Era. If you look at survival reasons, why would this terribly disabling disease still exist? And so there's that survival instinct piece. Perhaps in ancient times, if a tornado was coming in, someone with migraine was going to detect the storm, get their family to a protected place and not perish in this terrible storm. But now in modern day, with all these Doppler and everything else, and you're still getting a warning in your head that something's coming, but there are so many drivers for chronic migraine, having experienced trauma, being under tremendous stress, being just really taxed and busy. And I think one of the often missed things is just not sleeping well. And of course, not having the right treatment. As you said it beautifully, Tia, until you get a diagnosis, you're lost. And so this is what we're really pushing for, as Dr. Chouette said, we're really reaching out to providers to say, hey, when that patient mentions headache, you need to circle back to that. And you need to make specific time to talk about these headaches that are not sinus headaches. Many women are told, oh, it's just hormonal headache, or the worst is, oh, you'll get better once menopause comes. Well, menopause could last 20 years. Many women enter perimenopause in the late 30s, and their last menstrual period might be when they're 58. Why should they suffer for 20 years? Other women will say, well, I only had headache before that. It was never very disabling, but then they get to menopause and all of a sudden they have disabling migraine. So as you alluded to, I think, Nim, it's very heterogeneous. There is not one size fits all, and you really have to tailor the program to the individual.
Well, I would say too, Dr. Lay, and it's one of the things that just really stands out to me is, and it's certainly that we're not saying go get a new doctor if you don't like your doctor. But there are headache specialists, and I've been so amazed at how many people I've met who are still on some really old school medications that are really debilitating and that are really affecting their love life, their marriage, their time with their kids. And so I think there's a piece of hope too. I want people to take away from our conversations that there are advancements in medications. And I know that sounds like we would know that, but I think if someone's had migraine for 25 years and they got something from their doctor that they trust, and there's better things now that can still give them a fantastic quality of life. I don't know, Dr. Lee, if you can speak to that at all, like just that hope piece of going to your doctor and kind of advocating for yourself.
I think we never want anyone to lose hope, because no matter how you feel in the moment, I say to my patients, there's always something else to try. It might be something you tried 20 years ago. Your brain is different now. The environment is different. Your life is different. Your social life is different. Your physiology is different. But there are so many new medications and many new medications on the horizon. There are devices, and often lifestyle is sort of discounted as, oh, well, I tried that and it didn't work. But what I say to my patients is the lifestyle is the foundation, and sleep is really critical. Something as simple as sleeping in on a weekend relative to your weekday wake-up time can make you vulnerable to experiencing a migraine. And I think often patients get so caught up in diets and I'm going to eliminate this and eliminate that, and I'm going to, check the weather every day on my app. But as many of you know, there's something called prodrome now, which we better understand that before you actually experience even a little bit of headache, 12, 24, 48 hours before that, your brain now is hypersensitive, hyper aware. That ability to ignore unimportant information is lost. And so now your colleague's cologne is driving you crazy, or perhaps you ate a piece of chocolate and think, oh, why did I do that? It caused my migraine. It didn't cause your migraine. part of the prodrome of migraine is wanting chocolate. There are changes in your brain and dopamine and the hypothalamus, and they make us want something sweet, or for other patients, they crave salt, and then they blame the food for getting it. Or some people will say, I get a weather headache, and many, many migraine patients do, but I think Tia, you and Nim have probably experienced the fact that it isn't every single time the weather changes that you get a migraine. But often when you get a migraine, look back and go, it must have been the heat wave. But again, there's that vulnerability to that change, whereas other times you might not be vulnerable. So I think you always have to have hope. We're really pushing patients to think about the in-between days. I don't know, Nim, I know you've experienced this, or Tia, if you felt this way, please share. But some people sort of track the bad attack and they accept the in-between time being a little bit foggy, a little bit tired, a little bit, bothered by light. We don't want you to accept that anymore. We're looking for crystal clear migraine-free days in between the attacks.
Carrie, I have a question for Tia, if you don't mind. Something that I've seen, coming up on a decade now in the migraine space is, stigma is so pervasive, but even more so in the celebrity community, the public figure community. And you're someone that's in that space. You have your accolades, and it took you, as you said, 5 novels to get that story out. And now on this webinar, it's still, emotional, difficult for you to share your story. What did it take for you to get here to be able to use your platform and speak about your story? And how are you seeing, or how do you hope to see that shift for other public figures to be able to stand on a platform that they have to be able to move this community forward?
I honestly felt like even though I write fiction, I felt like I wasn't telling the whole truth. All of my female protagonists are inspired by some part of me. And I couldn't write another version of me without telling the full truth.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested in characters that look one way and present one way, but on the inside, it's drastically different than what everyone sees. And that's because that's how I have moved through the world. People are flabbergasted when they find out. And I felt like, well, what is my, God, no one's ever asked me this, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but like, what's my legacy going to be if I don't tell the truth about this big, terrifying thing that's been chasing me around since I was a little girl? And by the way, Dr. Lay, I don't think I've ever had a crystal clear day. Like when you said that, I don't think I've ever had one.
Wow. And it's critically important to think about that, because that's what we're pushing for. And that might be a combination of medications and lifestyle, maybe device, maybe physiotherapy, acupuncture. All of these things can be beneficial in migraine. And I think it's about raising the bar and saying, oh, as Carrie said at the opening, okay isn't good enough. And, part of what happens is people might take a medication and say, oh, I feel so much better. But we're not aiming for better. We're aiming for that migraine is gone. And so often, even with acute therapy, you need to take one. And for example, with a triptan or a G-PAN, you need to take that second one in 2 hours unless you feel back to normal. I've for 20 years of my career, I've talked about the migraine fire, and nobody would leave burning embers and say, oh, I think I'll just, leave that little fire alone in the kitchen. I'll go fold some laundry. And then the fire department shows up and says, Christine, your house burned down. What happened? Oh, this was a little fire in the kitchen, but I was busy. I mean, you got to put this migraine fire out. You have to work as soon as that attack starts, maybe in the prodrome, maybe when it's first coming, to take those acute medications, to turn off that fire, to put the fire out. And then there's the value of the prevention piece, which a lot of these new medications or devices or complementary therapies, vitamins, lifestyle, can reduce the burden, the frequency of the migraine, the duration, the severity. and it's challenging. I think there was a question in the audience. Well, what about pregnancy? What am I supposed to do? Well, many medications are contraindicated in pregnancy, and not many, every woman wants to protect this growing baby, but there are things you can do. Many devices can be effective. Lifestyle therapies are often far more effective during pregnancy than they are outside of pregnancy. Simple things like eliminating caffeine completely, because if you're a 1 or 2 coffee a day person and you take something with some caffeine in it, your brain's going to go, we see that stuff every day. We're not going to respond. But if you're caffeine naive, you'll probably have a better response. And nerve blocks can be very effective in migraine, with not the steroid version, but they can be effective. So there are ways to help women, particularly. Well, of course, we know men and children also have migraine, but through the many hormonal shifts that women go through in their lifetime. But yeah, I would encourage you, anyone who's out there listening, think about the crystal clear days. We have to aim for that. It's not good enough to feel better.
And let me add too, we see the comments coming through, and thank you so much for the questions. We had a 3-part series for anyone watching who is really trying to understand women's health, menopause, pregnancy, whether to have a baby. There's a great series we have on YouTube that really covers, and we've had such a response to that we'll probably continue to playing those and then resharing and coming up with new information to share as well. But make sure you all see that too, because it was a really great 3-part series on pregnancy and migraine. I'm going to put a question out there to you all that we didn't talk about beforehand. Something that's really been on my heart. And I think it's because I can imagine there's people watching right now that are relatives, loved ones, and they're going, I don't know what to do. I can't get it right. I can't help. What do you wish, as 3 patients, what do you wish your support system, for lack of a better word, really knew you? What do you wish they knew you needed during those really tough days?
Any thoughts, Tia or Nim? Or
this is going to sound so obnoxious. It's hard to say because my husband is like the best migraine husband ever. It sounds like I'm bragging. It sounds like, okay, whatever. He never makes, it's more about like what I don't want you to do, and the thing that is most frustrating is kind of blaming the victim. Well, if you just drink more water, or the doctor told you to get outside and have a walk. I haven't seen you, go outside in the past week. Didn't you have a Snickers 2 weeks ago? If you don't want to follow instructions, then, that kind of a thing. And I've had friends that have done that. I've been in relationships with people who've done that, or just not even really acknowledge the severity. I can't drink alcohol. So to be out with my friends and have someone who's supposed to be my good friend be like, oh, just have a vodka tonic, have some fun. As if I'm doing it because I don't want to be fun.
Yeah.
And I also cannot stand when people around me who know me are like, oh my God, I have such a migraine. I was up so late last night. Oh my God, this migraine. And I'm like, do I kill you now? Or like that? I cannot, because it's unfeeling. That means you don't feel me.
It's dismissive.
It's dismissive. You don't take this
Dismissive.
seriously. Like you're hungover, babe. It's totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's,
somebody wrote this in the chat, and Dr. Lay and Nim, certainly I want you to answer as well. But it is so surprising. And I think it's, with people who said, how can we break this stigma? Honestly, if American Migraine Foundation does nothing else, which we want to do so much more, but we need everyone watching right now to share what we've been talking about, not just here, but the post, not because none of us want to be famous. None of us are going to be famous except probably Tia, because she's going to keep writing great books. But we want the message to get out, because there's so many people nationwide and worldwide who have this. and they're hiding at home. And they're afraid to tell people that I'm missing another day at work or I'm doing this. And Hollywood has presented, and Tia, we hope you can help change this. Hollywood has presented migraine as a women's disease, and it's to get out of things, and it's to not be social, and it's going to take, if everyone on this call alone would just say, I'm going to post for a week what migraine really is. We could really start a movement. I mean, it's going to take all of us. We just create the content and material and get it out as much as we can. But I really encourage everyone, share your story. And if you're not comfortable sharing your story, share ours or share Tia's, because we need every voice at the table for it to be such a large, what is it, the second cause of global disability. And we're like, oh, no one really is talking about it. Like I just encourage everyone who's motivated now to say, what can I do? Share, 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 share. Also, we teach people what we share about what we're really going through. Like I've heard physicians or people would say, oh, some of the physicians will read some patient information and go, oh, I didn't realize that's what migraine is. We've got great resources. American Headache Society has great resources. I could go on and on about this because I'm so passionate from hearing from patients. Go to your doctor's appointment with a list of your symptoms. Like Dr. Lay said, they may not know migraine. And if they don't, it's okay to go to a headache doctor separately. But in your annual physical, when you spend that 15-minute window you have, don't just go, well, I have headaches, I have blood pressure problems, I have this and this. If the headache portion of your life is really, and the other migraine symptoms are really debilitating your life, take that list and say, I'm hearing these are all related to migraine. Pause, ask for help with that. Don't let it be okay that you're not migraine free ever. I'm a little passionate about this. Can y'all tell? I feel like we've got to get that message out. So I've got to go back to my other list of questions, but Dr. Lay and Nim, do you either of you have anything else to add to what we've said so far? I didn't want to skip over you because
Pia said it best. I'm fortunate to have a great support system at this chapter and stage of my life. But it's so funny because the experience of migraine itself is isolating. But in the moment of having an attack, all I want to do is be alone because I just need that quiet. I need that, decompression, all of that. But I also just don't want to be alone. It's like a catch-22 feeling where it's like, I need the alone time to decompress and get through this, but can you just sit right there, not say anything, not do anything, but just kind of be present. And so it's sort of that guilty feeling of feeling needy in the moment of like, I want your presence, but also don't breathe because
that makes complete sense.
I think the time to talk about it is a time when you're not in the middle of the attack.
Yes, exactly.
Because when they come in, even if they open the door, do you need anything? It's just like, oh my gosh, you sound so loud. Please don't. So you want to have the discussion separate when you're not having a migraine attack and say, the last time I had an attack, I really appreciate the fact that you wanted to support me, but this is what I need going forward. And I've encouraged many of my patients to have sort of a migraine kit, especially if they have children, so that when they know that mom is in the midst of a bad migraine, there's a kit that the other parent or whatever can give to, okay, why don't we play a quiet board game, or why don't we, watch something on a movie, and we'll give mom her magic headphones so that mom could be lying on the couch in the dark with her headphones on, but the children still feel like she's present. So there's lots of ways of thinking about strategies around management, but the time to talk to a loved one about what you need is obviously not in the middle of an attack, because that never goes well.
I have to tell you guys, I don't know if everybody, I don't know who can see the Q&A, but Tia, so many people are like, I completely relate to you. I hear you. I feel like I have chills. They're like, yes, how do I get beyond the guilt? How do I work through this? Yes, on the outside, I look healthy. On the inside, I'm just struggling. I'm alone. And I do want to invite people to that. We have a closed support group called Move Against Migraine on Facebook. I know everyone's not a Facebooker, but we want you to have a place for support. We know that this can be debilitating. We did a series in May, the first week of MHAM, on depression and migraine. It's so important that you have those resources of what that can look like. And we want people to know you're not alone, that this too will pass at some point. But if nothing else, go to that support page and you'll see so many other people going, Yes, yes, that's me. That's me. I'm Tia. I get it. I've been there. I'm hurting. Um, and so that's called Move Against Migraine on our Facebook, and it just says Powered by American Migraine Foundation. And we invite you to join that. It's a great place to ask questions. So before we end our time, and Tia, thank you, thank you, thank you, and I'll do another thank you before we're done. But I want to turn it over to Dr. Lay and to Nim as our board chairs. What is American Migraine Foundation doing about what we're talking about? Share a little bit about our goals going forward, and then, as promised, we'll close this up before too long. But I want people to be excited and hopeful.
Nim, do you want to speak about
No.
the leaf maybe first? It's an exciting thing. Okay. So we have many different initiatives that are underway. We look at the different aspects. And for people that are with us on fundraising, donations, your dollars are so important. We're putting them into research. We're developing research grants for newer, innovative individuals to look at perhaps not just the next drug, but something more along the physiology, the pathophysiology of migraine and where we can make that change. So research is critical. Education is critical. As Carrie said, we have a phenomenal website. There's a lot of support there. A lot of people in the Q&A are like, where do I get help for this? How do I understand that? How do I work with my insurance company? We're developing a patient playbook that will help you work with your insurance company to get to the point where you can achieve those medicines that you need to achieve, and understanding why, many patients that have migraine are extra vulnerable to side effects and will feel more fatigue and problems from the standard dose of a medication, and they need a much lower dose. So education is key, research is key, but education not just for patients and their families, education for employers. I encourage everyone out there who's struggling with anything to do with work, you tell your employer, I have a brain disease called migraine. Never say you have headaches. Never say, oh, I have migraine, which is bad headaches. Tell them you have a brain disease called migraine, and tell them about your symptoms: light, sound, smell sensitivity, cognitive fog, word finding difficulty, dizziness, overwhelming fatigue. Oh, and also severe headache. We have to change how people think about migraine. But I'm going to have Nim talk a little bit about a new initiative we're working on, where we're going to work with AMF emerging advocates, well-trained individuals, that we're going to take them boots on the ground to physicians' offices to help push the needle forward.
Thanks, Christine. Yeah, one of the pillars of AMF is advocacy. And when people think of advocacy, they think of it as the traditional form, going to the Capitol, speaking to legislators. And while AMF participates in that, we actually think about advocacy on a different way, and we're looking at it from a grassroots level. We had a program, or still have a program for many years, called Emerging Advocates, where we trained tons and tons of patients, advocates, people without migraine, with migraine, from all walks of life, about everything about migraine, the science of migraine, pathophysiology, epidemiology, advocacy, and how to craft a story. We now have them all over the country, in every state. And with the boots on the ground, we're like, what can we do to really make a change in people's lives? Because AMF is a national organization, but we can't be everywhere all the time. But our patients, our community members, you all are the strongest voices that we have, and you're living the experiences that we want to use as the tool to educate the systems that impede our progress. That being said, we have a program that we're about to launch called LEAP, which is Leveraging Emerging Advocates to Adopt a Provider. What that means is that we're looking at communities that are dramatically underserved, where there aren't a lot of access to headache specialists or even general neurologists, and connecting patients with the resources that AMF has, and getting them into providers' hands and offices, so that patients who aren't able to get to the website, don't know anything about AMF, or even the migraine community, have all of that knowledge through the provider in those local communities. We're really excited about this program. We think it's an excellent way of getting into places that, whether the barrier is internet, whether the barrier is access to care, whether the barrier is just simply not having providers that are knowledgeable about migraine, AMF wants to build that bridge, and we're looking to expand that with all of our emerging advocates. Dr. Lay?
Yeah, no, I think that's going to be a key initiative. And we know some initial research we've done with support and fundraising has really looked at the country as a whole. We're not doing a good enough job. We all know that, but there are, as Nim was saying earlier, there are pockets of the country where things are really not doing well at all, and so we're going to, work our way into these communities, and I think we're going to impact change. And together with our partner, the American Headache Society, working from the clinician end, working from the patient end, I think we're going to get there. But the most important thing, as Carrie said, and we're all trying to reiterate here, is that you can just don't lose hope. A lot of people. So, for example, if you've experienced childhood or young adult trauma, people that have had that experience in life, your brain is different. Your brain is hypervigilant, hyper-aware, planning, thinking, doing, noticing, worrying, managing all the time. And so many medicines may not be as effective for you as they are for someone who never experienced trauma. And it's important to understand that piece. Just very quickly, our group in Toronto has done a lot of work on this and found that certain programs can actually lead to getting rid of that refractory nature of migraine and finding relief. So there's always other things to try, always hope. And, we can always look at someone like Tia, who, held this story tight to her chest for so long and suffered for so many years. And wow, you write this book, it's a New York Times bestseller, and Reese Witherspoon picked it up, and there you go. You're educating the community about migraine. So we're so excited to hear your story.
Thank you, Dr. Lay and Nim, for that update. It's an exciting time to be part of the organization. I'm so proud of what's ahead. I am so honored to be here. I just want to thank everyone who's been part of MHAM. And if you're like, what did they keep saying? That's Migraine Headache Awareness Month. I know everyone doesn't sleep, eat, and breathe it like we all do, so you may not know what that acronym is. This has been such a fantastic month. We have had, I think maybe we're at 17 presentations that we've gone live with doctors. If you don't know anything about it, you can go to the homepage on our website. There's an event section. You can see all of the videos there. You can also go to our YouTube channel. I'm on there relentlessly, and I see a new video all the time, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to watch this one. This is great. Just search for American Migraine Foundation on YouTube, and you will see so many videos, new and old. And you can also be hopeful. You'll see the growth of what's happened in headache medicine. I just want to thank you all so much for your support this month. We actually had a goal of $25,000, and we're pretty close. So, we may be like $400 away. So if you haven't given and you want to, it covers the things like Dr. Lay expressed. I know sometimes people say, there's not a cure. What are you guys doing over there? Are you going to Capitol Hill? Like, what's happening? And we partner strongly with another organization that really heads the Capitol Hill piece up. And we're constantly just pushing out, what do our patients need? You may not know this, but we're watching things that come across our feed. We're watching things that come across our Move Against Migraine. What are people talking about? What are patients needing? We're taking note of things that are in the chat right now. We also take those back to our colleagues at American Headache Society. So there's so much going on. We also are just strongly engaged with research and wanting to be more engaged with research and want to make sure that we're getting what the patients need. So I know we're out of time on the dot. Tia Williams, thank you. I think that if anyone was watching and didn't feel it, you are so authentic. I even loved your emotions during the call of seeing that you go, wait, I don't have clear headache days. So we're hoping her final book in this series, we hope it'll be free and clear, headache free.
Yes.
That's what we're looking for. So thank you, seriously, Tia, for being so brave. And so many people have said to me that was so powerful. So thank you, and for being so humble about it. We'll also put a link to the title of her book in case you didn't catch it. And we'll put a link to our page where our patient guides are. If people are new to our page, we want you to be able to find those guides and take them to your doctors. Don't just keep advocating for yourselves. But thank you all. Thank you for being here. If you have a question we didn't answer or you're looking for a resource, you can always email us at info@americanmigrainefoundation.org. If you can't remember that, it's on the bottom of our homepage too. So thank you. Thank you, Nim. Thank you, Dr. Lay. Thank you, Tia. Thank you all for watching. And we want to be here to serve you. And we're just so happy to be part of your journey. So thank you all. All right.
Thanks, everyone.